1, 0.
And we have liftoff of Vikram-1, India's first private orbital launch
Liftoff
vehicle.
normal.
India has already proved it can reach space. Now it wants to do something far more difficult, which is return from space without damaging the vehicle. Skyroot Aerospace made history with India's first privately built orbital rocket. But that launch was not the destination. It was the starting line. The company's next ambition is bold. Build a rocket that does not burn up or crash into the ocean after one mission. Instead, it flies back, reignites its engines in midair, and lands vertically, just like SpaceX's Falcon 9. Skyroot isn't racing alone. Another Indian company, Agnikul, has begun work on reusable launch technology. ISRO too has been perfecting the science of rocket recovery behind the scenes. The global space race is no longer about who reaches orbit first, it's about who can fly again and again and again. Can India join that elite club? Can it compete with SpaceX and China? And how close are we to seeing an Indian rocket land back on Earth? And why is it a significant step towards realizing India's space dreams? Skyroot barely had time to celebrate. Days after Vikram-1 reached orbit on its first attempt, CEO Pawan Kumar Chandana confirmed the company's next target: reusable rockets and bigger ones. Chandana said Skyroot, which is now valued at $1.1 billion after raising $60 million in May, is developing larger launch vehicles capable of carrying heavier payloads alongside investments in reusable rocket technology, and that is to specifically cut launch costs. Now, the roadmap already includes Vikram-2, a 1-ton class rocket with a fully reusable launch vehicle planned further down the line. Chandana's own framing was blunt. Expendable rockets work fine for today's small satellite market, but reusability is, quote, where the scale game goes, unquote. Here's why this matters more than it sounds. Reusable rockets are exactly what transformed SpaceX from an ambitious startup into a company that now dominates global launches. Recovering and reflying a rocket booster slashes the cost of reaching orbit dramatically. The same economic logic that Elon Musk built his entire empire on. On July 10th, China's state-owned rocket maker, CASC, accomplished what no one outside the US had done. It recovered an orbital-class rocket booster. The Long March 10B is part of the rocket family designed for its crewed moon landing plans, missions that China wants operating before the decade is over, and for keeping its Tiangong space station supplied and staffed. Making that rocket reusable means those trips will be cheaper and more frequent. Bottom line, China is now only the second country on Earth after the US to recover an orbital booster in one piece. For India, this isn't a vanity project, it's a competitiveness question. If Indian companies keep building only expendable single-use rockets while SpaceX and Chinese firms fly reusable ones repeatedly, India's private sector space risks becoming a niche player rather than a genuine global competitor in the launch market. Now, just a day before this news from Skyroot, another Indian company made its own reusability announcement. Agnikul Cosmos revealed Mission 02, an attempt to recover an orbital-class rocket booster for the first time in India. Now, the company CEO Srinath Ravichandran put the philosophy simply. Single-use rockets made sense when spaceflight was about one-off achievements. For frequent, economically viable missions, reuse and modularity are the future.
So at Agnikul, we build rockets that take satellites to space. We are based out of the IIT Madras ecosystem in Chennai, in India. We build rockets that are fully reusable.
Agnikul recently brought former ISRO chairman S. Somnath onto its board as an observer. Now, Somnath notably also serves as Skyroot's honorary technical advisor, giving India's two leading private rocket companies access to the same institutional expertise that delivered Chandrayaan 3 and the Gangayaan program. Even ISRO itself has been working on this problem for years, running its own reusable launch vehicle landing experiments well before either of these other two private companies entered the race. Now, zoom out, and this reusability push fits a much bigger pattern. India opened its space sector to private players only in 2020. Since then, the number of space startups has jumped from a single company to 200 companies. Agnikul already runs India's first privately operated launchpad and mission control center at Sriharikota. Smaller players like Jaipur-based Orbitex India Airspace are separately developing their own fully reusable concepts. The regulatory body in InSpace now oversees this entire ecosystem, a framework, imagine this, that did not exist just till 6 years ago. Now, what was once a government monopoly through ISRO has in less than a decade become a genuine multi-company race. None of this obviously guarantees success. Reusability is one of the hardest problems in rocketry. SpaceX itself failed repeatedly before landing its first Falcon 9 booster. China's private space companies are pouring billions into the same challenge, with relatively mixed results so far. For India, the ambition is clear, but the execution gap remains real. Vikram-1 proved India can reach orbit on the first try. Whether Skyroot, Agnikul, or any other Indian company can land a booster with similar success is a separate and a much harder test. Still, the direction is unmistakable. India's private sector companies aren't content chasing yesterday's milestone. That much is clear. They are already racing towards the one that actually decides who wins the global launch business, not who reaches orbit, but who can do it again and again using the same rocket. This is Times Access, where global stories meet India's perspective. Click on the bell icon to subscribe, because the next big global shift will have India at its center.